More and more, we're seeing developers and publishers going back to beloved classics and bringing them back, revitalizing them with fresh ideas, gameplay improvements, and technological leaps. And while not all are equally successful, or even necessary, there's little doubt that there's obvious value in the idea of a remake. We're now at a point in time where the PS2 generation is far enough away that many of the excellent games adorning its classic library could benefit massively from a similar treatment. And here we're going to be talking about exactly that, as we list 15 PS2 games that we would love to see remade. Before we go ahead, a quick request. We upload new videos every single day, and your subscription matters a lot, so please consider subscribing and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. With that out of the way, let's begin. Ico. Team Ico's legacy is one of remarkable excellence, and though it would be with their sophomore title, in Shadow of the Colossus, that they would deliver what's probably their best game ever, their debut wasn't anything to scoff at either. Ico was absolutely amazing and stands even today as one of the best, most unique games we've ever played on the PS2. It's also a game that has aged poorly in some regards though, and a remake we feel would help elevate it to new heights, whether that's in terms of controls or polish or technical improvements. The Getaway. GTA clones were big in the early 2000s, and quite a few of them were legitimately great games. One of those was Sony and Team Soho's open-world crime epic, The Getaway. Though it didn't set the world on fire or sit like peanuts when it first launched, the passage of time has earned it a set of dedicated fans who swear by its quality. The Getaway as a series has never really managed to flourish the way that it should have, and we've never quite stopped hoping for a revival. Ideally, that would be an entirely new game, but honestly an ambitious remake of the first one would be hard to say no to as well. Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. Of Sony's 3 PS2 era platforming mascots, only Ratchet has managed to stick around. Just like Sly Cooper fans, Jak and Daxter fans have had to feed on scraps and memories, which is a real shame because when Jak was good, it was amazing. We know Naughty Dog has tried, and failed apparently, to bring the series back from its seemingly permanent hiatus a few times now, and hopefully one of these days they, or perhaps some other studio, will figure out how to do that. And if a complete remake of the first game is how a developer gets its creative juices flowing to get in the groove, well, we're going to be perfectly fine with that. Hell, we're going to be ecstatic. Dark Cloud. Given how massively popular RPGs and grand adventures are in games nowadays, we're surprised that every major developer and publisher isn't scrambling to find at least one such franchise to slot into its arsenal of properties. And if Sony should ever feel the need to deliver a fantasy RPG, they should look no further than Dark Cloud. Developed by Level 5, this was a proper PS2 classic, delivering a wonderful blend of Zelda-like combat, classic role-playing mechanics, and even city-building elements all rolled into one package. A modernization of Dark Cloud that seeks to sand out the rough edges would have a lot of potential in today's day and age. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. If rumors are to be believed, we might just get Metal Gear remakes in the not-so-distant future, and we're cautiously optimistic about that. Let's take Metal Gear Solid 2 for instance. Making an entirely new game in the series without Hideo Kojima's involvement would be a bad idea, but going back to remake something like MGS2 would actually be pretty exciting. Update its gameplay to add in mechanics from later games, expand on levels and locations to provide players with a little more freedom in terms of traversal and exploration, make tweaks to the story to make it consistent with subsequent installments, and of course improve the visuals, and what you have is a game with the potential to be yet another instant classic. Could it go wrong? Oh sure, it could go horribly wrong, but it's still a risk worth taking. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Why Vice City? Because it's been too long. Rockstar has shown plenty of love to both Liberty City and San Andreas, but the Miami-based Vice City has only shown up in 2 games, which is ridiculous because it's an excellent setting. A remake of GTA Vice City would be a dream come true for so many reasons. Not only would we get to revisit the setting, the game itself could also benefit in terms of both gameplay and its storytelling, with improvements from later games applied to it. Persona 3. Persona 3 set the tone for Atlus's successful franchise, laying down the foundations on which Persona 4 and Persona 5 have then made significant improvements. Even so, it's a game that is a tiny bit hard to go back to. Tartarus isn't exactly a great dungeon, you can't control your party members unless you're playing Persona 3 Portable, and while there are multiple versions of the game, it's hard to definitively call any of them the best one. A remake that brings Persona 3 up to P5's level of quality and introduces all the slice of life, combat, and exploration improvements we've seen in the series of late would basically be an instant masterpiece. Silent Hill 2. Rumors of a Silent Hill revival are refusing to go away, but as excited as we are about the prospect of a proper new game in the series, we can't help but going back to Silent Hill 2. That game's a masterpiece of horror, of game design, of storytelling, and of atmosphere, and the prospect of a remake that modernizes the experience and breathes new life into it similar to what Capcom did with the Resident Evil 2 remake is a mouth-watering one. Splinter Cell: Chaos Theory. Splinter Cell, one of the best stealth franchises of all time. And as the best Splinter Cell game to date, Chaos Theory has a special place in the heart of all stealth fans. And this right here is a game that would benefit massively from a ground-up remake. From a gameplay and game design perspective, all it would need was a little coat of polish, while with technical and visual improvements, it could give millions the chance to experience an excellent rendition of an already seminal game. There's no telling if Ubisoft will ever go back to Splinter Cell the way fans want them to, but if they do, we really hope they at least consider bringing back Chaos Theory. Bully. In the absence of a sequel, Bully is now little more than a cult classic that fans look back on fondly, but will likely never get to experience more of. But honestly, the game's more zoomed-in approach is exactly what makes it such a good candidate for a remake. Because if Rockstar ever does decide to remake it, they wouldn't have to worry about crafting a massive open world, about spending hundreds of millions in its development, about spending half a decade on making the game. A remake might just be the perfect way to revitalize the property. It's a shame it'll probably never happen. Kingdom Hearts. Now, Square Enix is a company that has no issues with remaking its classics, and one classic that we think would really benefit from a remake is the first Kingdom Hearts. Why? Well, for starters, the worlds could be bigger and more ambitious, the visuals could see major improvements, and the combat could be touched up with additions. But more than that, going back to the basics of the first game would be an extremely refreshing change of pace for a series that's become obnoxiously hard to follow as time goes on. ONIMUSHA Warlords. ONIMUSHA might not have the cash that something like Resident Evil does, but if the last few years have proven anything, it's that it's a series that legions of fans still swear by. Fans have been hoping for a revival for some time now, and even though we did get a remaster of the first game, a full ground-up remake could be potentially amazing. Remake it using the RE engine and strike the same balance between modernization and being faithful that Resident Evil 2's remake did, and you'll have a winner on your hands. Suikoden 3. Konami has a plethora of legendary properties that are just wasting away, some of which we've even spoken about in this feature. Their role-playing franchise Suikoden is yet another one that we're all desperate to see more of. A sequel would, of course, be ideal, but honestly, we wouldn't say no to a Suikoden 3 remake either. Sure, it would be a massive undertaking given the scope of the game, and its placement in the series' chronology doesn't exactly make it the best jumping on point for the uninitiated, but given how excellent Suikoden 3 was, it's hard not to dream about a remake. Resident Evil: Code Veronica X. Capcom clearly isn't done with Resident Evil remakes, and now that the first 3 installments have been remade, you'd think that Code Veronica, which is basically RE3 in all but name, and a crucial part of the series' larger storyline, would be next in line. Apparently though, Capcom are skipping over it and going straight to RE4, which is a bit of a shame. Because honestly, Code Veronica is in desperate need of a remake. From design issues to storytelling, from its aging visuals to its painful voice acting, in spite of being by and large a great game, Code Veronica has a number of issues. An ambitious remake would sand out those rough edges and could turn it into a classic that can stand toe-to-toe with the best the series has to offer. Max Payne. It's frustrating that a series as beloved and popular as Max Payne has been left by the wayside. Rockstar's busy with massive open-world games, and GTA Online of course, but perhaps they should take a break from that and do something more focused. And what better way to do that than by remaking one of the best action games anyone's ever played. Max Payne is 2 decades old at this point, and a remake that completely uplifts it in terms of both gameplay and storytelling might just be the perfect way to bring the franchise back. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and we would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.